What if I told you the pyramids weren't built? They were unbuilt, not stacked upward, not lifted into place, but carved downward from something much bigger. And the wildest part? This theory explains why we've never found the ramps, machines, or tools. Because they were never lost. They were reused. Stay with me. This will change how you see the pyramids. Cleopatra lived closer to the invention of the iPhone than she did to the building of the pyramids. Ancient Romans visited them as ruins, the way we visit the Colosseum today. That much time erases details, but what we do know is incredible. The Great Pyramid stands 146 meters tall. It contains over 2 million stone blocks. Its base is nearly a perfect square, off by just centimeters. It's aligned almost exactly to true north, without compasses, lasers, or GPS. Even a tiny error at the bottom would destroy the top. So how did they do it? Ancient Egypt had something rare: time, stability, food surplus. Every year, the Nile flooded predictably, feeding massive populations. That meant tens of thousands of skilled workers could focus entirely on construction. And they weren't slaves. Archaeologists found worker cities, bakeries, doctors, and even tombs for craftsmen. We even have 4,500-year-old logbooks tracking stone shipments and payroll. But strangely, we have zero blueprints for how the pyramids were built. The first theory says workers dragged stones up massive external ramps. Problem? To keep the slope walkable, the ramp would need to stretch nearly 2 kilometers. That ramp alone would use more material than the pyramid itself, and there's no trace of it. The second theory says a spiral ramp ran inside the pyramid. But scans show no continuous spiral tunnels, and turning multi-ton stones inside tight corridors would be nearly impossible. And both theories fail at the same place: the top. The higher you go, the less room you have to work. Yet the apex is the most precise part of the entire structure. Most ancient pyramids flatten the top. Egypt didn't, which makes the apex the real mystery. 2 years ago, I received an email from someone named Huni Choi. Not an architect, not an Egyptologist, just someone who spent 10 years modeling thousands of pyramid stones in 3D. At first, it sounded crazy. Then I read it, and everything changed. Instead of stacking stones upward, what if the Egyptians did this? First, they found a limestone hill. Then, they leveled it into a massive platform. Next, they overbuilt a huge stepped stone mass with ramps integrated into the structure. Once they reached full height, they carved it downward into a perfect pyramid. They didn't build pyramids, they built mountains and sculpted them into geometry. Working downward means full visibility of all 4 sides, a wide, stable platform near the top, no shrinking workspace, no impossible ramp angles. The hardest part, the apex, becomes the easiest. And here's the genius part: all the stone carved away was reused for other pyramids, for temples, for causeways, for chambers. The pyramid wasn't just a monument, it was a stone processing machine. The Great Pyramid weighs about 6 million tons. Models suggest the original stepped mass may have weighed closer to 8 million tons. That means 2 million tons were carved away and reused elsewhere. Across the plateau, this recycling loop matches almost perfectly with archaeological volume estimates. Instead of endless quarry hauling, Egypt may have used a closed-loop construction system, which feels very Egyptian. They recycled everything. Researchers mapped thousands of casing stones on nearby pyramids. They found strange vertical patterns called bonding stones. These stones stitched together separate construction sections. But here's what's strange: they appear across multiple faces. They're not at corners. And the patterns match. That suggests multiple crews working simultaneously on a wide, unobstructed platform, which is hard to explain with massive ramps blocking the pyramid, but easy to explain if the pyramid was carved downward. So where are the ramps? Maybe they weren't lost. Maybe they were removed on purpose. What if sacred monuments weren't meant to show fingerprints of construction? What if part of the design was erasing the human process entirely? Then absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence, it's evidence of cleanup. In science, you run experiments. In archaeology, you can't rebuild the Great Pyramid. Instead, theories get stronger if they predict what we should find, and those predictions match reality. But with pyramids, multiple methods could produce the same result. And we're missing the entire construction phase. So the best answer isn't, this is true, it's, for now, this is the least wrong. I'll admit it. At one point, I wondered about aliens, not because I believe it, but because our brains hate uncertainty. It's easier to imagine outsiders than to accept that humans achieved something this incredible and left no instructions. But maybe that's the point. In a world where we can Google almost everything, the pyramids remain one of the last things we can't force into clarity. And maybe that mystery is what makes them eternal. So tell me, do you think we'll ever solve how the pyramids were built? Let me know in the comments.